Let me say this without hype, because most people don't need better goals this year. They need to confront the place where they always quit. And I know that we're in a new calendar year, and I know the instinct is to jump straight into planning, goal setting, ambition. Let's get to work. But I want to say this clearly. This year is not going to change because you set better goals or made a better plan. You're always going to have goals. You're always going to make plans. You are hardwired to want more, to grow, to achieve, to become. That's in you already. But what changed my life was not setting more goals. What changed my life was learning how to identify my invisible ceiling. Your invisible ceiling is the place where you always retreat. It's the pattern. You start strong, you make the plans, you feel clear, you're on fire, you feel called, you're excited. And then somewhere along the way, without you even realizing it, something internal pulls you back. Your invisible ceiling is where your system decides it's had enough expansion. But you don't wake up and say, I think I'm going to self-sabotage today. But it's a subconscious retreat point. It's the moment your nervous system starts interpreting forward movement as a threat to your identity. And that level of becoming feels unfamiliar to your system. So your system pulls the brake before failure happens. And it's not because you can't do it, but because staying the same feels safer than expanding. Your ceiling is a self-protection limit. Your system is saying this level of growth requires a version of me that I'm just not used to being yet. So it shuts expansion down quietly. And that's why the same pattern keeps repeating. Start, progress, retreat. Start, progress, retreat. You slow down, you pause. You tell yourself, I heard God wrong. I need a sign. I'm not on the right track. You start second guessing. You tell yourself you'll come back to it. And every time it ends the same way, you don't finish. And until you consciously override that internal limit, that's going to be the ceiling that will keep you looping. Start, stop, start again, stop again. And it's not because you don't have vision, not because God is not speaking to you, but because there's a subconscious retreat point in your system that has been deciding how far you are allowed to go. And everything you're praying for is on the other side of that ceiling. And I know this all too well because I've lived it. I was a chronic starter and stopper. I never lacked ambition. I never lacked vision. I never had a problem setting goals. My pattern was starting and not finishing. But once I finally identified where I always retreated and I pushed past that point, instead of backing off, something very specific happened. My income quadrupled. My business took off. I removed the internal brake and momentum finally had somewhere to build. So before you set another goal, find the place you usually retreat because that's the ceiling deciding your life. Your life doesn't expand where you plan. It expands where you stop retreating.